And good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to A Week in Baseball here with Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein on WGUR 95.3 The Noise. And Frankie, it's been a little bit since we've been in the studio, hasn't it been?
Yeah, I got a busy week last week, but had to, cancel the show. Had a little bit of a water crisis down here in Milledgeville with pipes bursting, so got a couple days off from school. Not complaining about that, but it's definitely gonna, kind of push things back a little bit with finals coming up, so hopefully everything will be straightened out.
Yeah, it definitely was a nice break, and it was good to go home. We got to watch a lot of baseball, that's for sure. So definitely a lot of things happening over the past 2 weeks. Once again, opening day was 2 weeks ago, if you can believe it. That was that long ago. And some of the big headlines, you have Trevor Story, the 23-year-old Colorado Rockies shortstop, and we talked about him last show before the season, and he has really taken off, Frankie, in his first 3 big league games. He was the first player ever to hit a home run in those first 3 games. He hit 4, and what impressed me the most about those, 2 of them were off Zach Greinke. And we know how good Zach Greinke is, Frankie, and that was just it was a cool moment to see, especially with the first one, his first hit being a homer.
Yeah, he's just been off on a tear. Starting off the season, slowed up a little bit recently, but like you said, 2 off of Greinke, 1 off of Shelby Miller, and 1 off Patrick Corbin, all Diamondback pitchers. And, he had the first 6, or I think it was 7 home runs to his first 6 games, which was a record for the most homers by a player through their first 6 games. And 7 home runs in 6 games. He's doing well with the average too, hitting almost 300 at 294, 13 RBIs. And the only thing we got to be cautious about right now is the strikeout numbers. He's really, don't know if he's got in his head that he's trying to be almost a power hitter, and we know Coors Field is, easy to get the ball out of there. Yeah. A good park for a home run hitter. So hopefully he won't let this mentality of just trying to put the ball over the fence kind of, determine the way he plays his game.
Yeah, and he has been very fun to watch, Frankie. He even came close to 2 more home runs in some recent games. I know Coors Field put up some new fences over the offseason and ended up being robbed by those new fences, and what would have been a home run last year. But yeah, I think as long as he cuts down on those strikeouts and doesn't try to get too big in the swing, I think he will definitely have a good Rookie of the Year. And off to a great start. 7 home runs, to start, that's just, definitely a great way to start the career. And definitely really taken the most of the opportunity that he's been given when Jose Reyes was placed on the restricted list. And another rookie who has really taken the beginning of the season by storm is Jeremy Hazelbaker of the St. Louis Cardinals. And Hazelbaker, a 28-year-old rookie, so a bit of a late bloomer, but he played in 751 games before he got to the big leagues. That's definitely impressive for him to be able to continue to stick with it, and he's really produced well so far, Frankie.
Yeah, through his first 9 games, batting 13 for 27, just great average-wise. Got a pair of home runs, pair of stolen bases, 3 doubles, and, this is just typical Cardinals farm system. They just have guys loaded down there, and even a guy like this that, he really battled his way out in the minor leagues and got a chance to finally come up, and it's turning out great for them. And back in AA, AAA, he hit 313, 13 homers, 25 doubles, and a little bit of speed with 24 stolen bases out of 26 chances. So I just think this is a classic Cardinals player right here.
Yeah, and once again, we talk about the depth of the Cardinals. They have an injury, they bring somebody up. Randall Grichuk wasn't doing too well to start the season, so they plug Hazelbaker in, and he's become almost like a cult hero out in St. Louis. Everybody knows his name, and it's definitely been cool, especially like I just said before, for somebody to be in the minor leagues that long. That's hard.
Yeah.
He was originally drafted by Boston, then ended up, I believe, just maybe getting cut from them or their system and coming over to the Cardinals. But he really also plays the game the Cardinal way, it seems like. from what we've been watching. So this is definitely going to be a good player to have in their system and on the bench. I mean, they've got a really good outfield. You have Matt Holliday, Stephen Piscotty, Randall Gritchick, and then adding Hazel Baker. So they're definitely, going to surprise a few people with the depth that they have this year.
Yeah, for sure.
And some other big news during this opening week, and that was the good old slide rule. And this past offseason, the slide rule was tweaked a bit after the Chase Utley slide that we talked about many of times that broke Ruben Tejada's leg, and it was enforced in 2 games. The first one, the Blue Jays and the Rays, and this was a game-deciding call as bases were loaded. Jose Bautista slid into second base, past the base, which you cannot do that under the new rules, and he also grabbed the foot of Logan Forsythe, which was another violation. Yeah. So instead of them scoring, which Forsythe threw the ball away, and it would have scored 2 runs, and they would have taken a 4-3 lead, the Rays ended up winning on that 3-2. So it definitely turned some heads at the beginning. I know John Gibbons, the manager of the Blue Jays, was not happy, nor were a lot of the players. So, Frankie, we've seen the evolution of a few rules with the home plate rule a few years ago. Do you think that this rule needs any tweaking, and how do you like it so far?
Yeah, it's definitely had a lot of impact on these games so far, and kind of looking at the terminology they use, it's kind of funny in the rule, it's in quotations, a bona fide slide is what they're labeling it as, and it pretty much has 3 parts to its construction, and one is to make contact with the ground before actually reaching the base, and then also, trying to stay on the base. So that's the first 2 parts. And then the third part is also not changing your path in order to make contact with the fielder. So you've kind of got these 3 cases where, I know, listen to Bill Ripken talk about it on MLB Network, and it's kind of a situation where, definitely if you hit all 3 of those things in a single slide, you don't even try to, you're adjusting your path to hit a player and not sliding at the right time, and then also not trying to stay on the bag. Those are the 3 main parts that kind of suggest you would be trying to go out of your way to interfere with the, second baseman or shortstop throwing the ball. But yeah, those 2 instances, it's definitely going to be, something we got to look into, just like the home plate slide rule, kind of, the plays at home plate develop. And I'm sure as the season goes along, it'll be a little bit more clear cut on what's going to be, determined as, breaking that rule or staying within those guidelines. Right now, it's definitely in the beginning phases of deciding what that's going to be.
Yeah, the second instance, and this one, I thought was a little different, was the Astros and Brewers game, and that one, Astros are mounting a comeback. You have Colby Rasmus on first. Altuve hits a ball to second base. Second baseman Scooter Gennett throws it over to Jonathan Villar, and Villar didn't even attempt. He knew he was just going to get one out with Altuve running, so he just catches it. Rasmus slides on the right side of the bag and slides past it, and then they invoke the automatic double play rule. So for that one, for me, I did not agree with the ruling because, first off, Villar was not trying to turn a double play. Rasmus was not, clearly, yes, he slid past the bag, but he slid to the side of it. It's not like he was blatantly going into Villar. So I think it's one of those, as I heard a few people on MLB Network say, it's just kind of common sense where we need to make sure that when we're applying these rules, it is common sense. Because if Villar doesn't have a play, and he knew he didn't have a play, it's not like Rasmus came into him and then he's like, oh, I don't have a play now because he's bearing in on me. That's different. He just flat out wasn't going to throw it. So I would disagree in that perspective.
Yeah, and you definitely it's got to be something that's interfering with the thrower making a throw, because like in that instance, not even, and I don't know if did it go to replay on that, or is it a judgment call and can you not review it by replay?
I hate to say, I don't remember if it went through yet, but these are reviewable.
Okay, yeah.
So they will go to New York to review it. They did do that in the Rays-Blue Jays game, but...
Yeah, that's definitely going to be a big thing, too. Just deciding, like in that case, if he's not throwing the ball, I don't know, how you're going to be able to make that call. And it's definitely, it's something that's going to be hard for umpires. It's going to be hard for everybody, really, to kind of get used to it. But in the end, it's going to, after those two big injuries we had last season with
Jung-Ho Kang.
Yeah, and also Tejada, with the slides. And I believe that they're calling the rule the Utley rule now. I think that's what, is actually in the official rule book now. So it's definitely going to help make it safer after, and that's definitely needed to kind of have some kind of development of this rule. And I'm sure by the end of this season there'll be tweaks made, maybe even mid-season, to try to kind of clean it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I would say, I love... And I'm all for protecting the players. And I would say the one problem I do have with this is because players are not supposed to go to the sides of the bag or not allowed to go through it, I just think it's going to take away some of the competitiveness of breaking up a double play.
Yeah.
Because as an infielder, or especially a middle infielder, you're taught to have good footwork to avoid any slides. So another thing I would also say is when people you need to have people slide past the bag in a sense, because when the middle infielder jumps over you, if they stop at the bag, they're going to land right on that person if they don't have any forward momentum.
Yeah.
When they jump up, the person slides underneath and goes past. Maybe that's me overthinking it, but being a middle infielder for some of my time playing baseball, as well as seeing a lot of these different plays, I just want to make sure that we keep that where you can break up a double play instead of, it's so easy for the infielders to make a turn.
And maybe also putting kind of a measurement in place of, where you hit a certain point, if you're a foot from the bag and, then make your attempt to start sliding, there might be some kind of thing they can do in the replay booth to kind of maybe measure that with, the different, applications and all that stuff to have to analyze distance and stuff like that to maybe kind of make it a little bit easier, because you can't be sliding like right on top of the bag. And definitely the biggest thing of this is not going out of your way deliberately to make contact with the player, like the Bautista one. Like you can't, if this guy's trying to make a throw and you grab his foot, like that's obviously going to interfere with where he's throwing the ball. And in the end, I mean, that one for sure I think should definitely be enforced, but the other one's a little bit different.
Yeah, so I'm definitely sure baseball will try to make a change, but we will see how it ends up. And we will take a quick break, but when we come back, we will highlight two players who recently got contract extensions, and we will let you know who those are. And we're back here on A Week in Baseball. Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein. And just a reminder, you can follow us on all of our social media pages. We have our Facebook page, A Week in Baseball, Twitter page, at A Week in Baseball, YouTube page, A Week in Baseball, and my blog, www.aweekinbaseball.blogspot.com. And a few players getting contract extensions over the past 2 weeks. And we will start with Adrian Beltre, the Texas Rangers third baseman, and he received a 2-year, $36 million extension, and that'll add on to the 6-year deal that he signed back in 2011. And Frankie, he's been one of the biggest parts to this Texas team. I would say the biggest over the past couple of years. He's just one of those great clubhouse guys, does it offensively, defensively. What do you think about this contract?
Yeah, he's definitely been one of the staple guys these past 6-7 years for how successful this Rangers team has been, and lots of accolades. The 2 back-to-back World Series visits that they had didn't get the job done, but some of his best seasons have come within the past 5 or 6 years, average-wise. And he doesn't really seem to be slowing down that much for how old he is. I believe he's 37 years old right now, so they're definitely trying to lock him up and have him there. And hopefully, the biggest thing for him, I believe, will be like we always talk about, the injuries. Getting up there in age definitely makes you a lot more susceptible to smaller things, just pulled muscles and just tiny things that can kind of get you off track and almost be career-ending. But for him, he just seemed to be bouncing back injury after injury, and it's been really great for the Rangers to have him. This season batting .292 with 2 home runs and 11 RBIs, and for a 37-year-old, that's pretty good, and definitely one of the great third basemen of all time.
Yeah, I mean, he's compiled, if you look at his numbers, I mean, this is his 19th year in the majors. He has .285 batting average, 415 home runs, and that's 49th all time. So I can imagine he'll probably get to maybe 450 when all's said and done. And 2,781 hits, and that is 50th all time. So, this is a guy who I personally think is still underrated in the major leagues. I mean, if you think about it, he has won, or with Texas just with Texas, 3 All-Star nods, 2 Silver Sluggers, 2 Platinum Gloves, 2 Gold Gloves, and a Wilson Defensive Player of the Year. So it's not like he's a one-dimensional player.
Yep.
I mean, he does it all, and I still think he does the slow roller play the best in the majors right now. And just a really fun guy. I know they mess with him with rubbing his head over there in Texas, but this is one of the best guys in the game right now, and really we're going to look back and he's going to be almost like a George Brett or a Mike Schmidt in our generation.
Yeah, all those guys in the clubhouse probably look up to him and have learned so much from him just being around there and being able to kind of, probably pick his brain a little bit. And, I'm sure Elvis Andrus definitely has, gained a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge just from being around him.
Oh, yeah, definitely. What I think is one of the funniest things with Beltre, too, I mean, he just has so much fun with the game, first off, but when him and Andrus both go for a pop-up and both of them will kind of mimic each other catching it, I'm surprised they haven't dropped one yet.
Yeah, it gives him that death stare afterwards.
Yeah.
And they try to touch his head, and he goes, crazy. Now, I guess he doesn't like that. Don't know why, but he's not a fan of being touched on the head.
No, definitely not, so don't make him mad. And another player who got a contract is Brandon Belt of the San Francisco Giants, and he received a 6-year, $79 million contract, and currently the 27-year-old had one of his best offensive years last year, and he's actually going to turn 28 on Wednesday, so still a young guy, but I think this is a good thing for the Giants to lock him up, because we've seen over the years, Frankie, that the Giants love to lock up their guys.
Yep.
We've seen Brandon Crawford this offseason, Buster Posey, Hunter Pence. So, I think this is a good move for for San Francisco.
Yeah, this is a guy that, going back to talking about the HBO series, watching that and kind of a little bit debacle trying to get him up to the majors, and didn't really start off too well. Only batted around, .230 his first year up in 2011, but, consistently got better, and this season batting around 300, 3 home runs, and he's going to be a big part of what the Giants do this season. Just been a great guy for that Giants team, and has just done a lot for them, and really glad they could lock him up, and he deserves this contract for sure.
Yeah, he does. And I remember a few years ago, he made an adjustment in his swing with his hands and really loosened up his hands. So he went from a guy who could never get to that inside pitch to now he's taking that inside pitch and he's pulling it down the line. So I think this year and maybe next year, we're going to see him take off even more and become that 25-homer guy. I'm not going to put pressure on him to do that, because he does hit a lot of doubles, does hit triples in San Francisco, but I think he could definitely reach the 25-homer plateau. And we'll see, and he's just a good defensive first baseman as well. So great move by the Giants, and I just love how they continue to lock up their guys. And we'll take another quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about some injury news as well as highlight how some of the teams have started the 2016 season. And we're back here on A Week in Baseball. Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein with you. And before we get to some injury updates, we got a quick game update for you. Today, the Toronto Blue Jays beat the Boston Red Sox by a score of 4-3. J.A. Happ picking up the win in that one, and Koji Uehara picking up the loss. So, a little shake up there in the AL East, and I'm sure we're going to see that matchup a lot this season as, both of them retooled, and the Blue Jays are definitely going to be where they were from last year.
Mm-hmm.
So to the injury update, Kyle Schwarber during the first week went down after he collided with Dexter Fowler, and he ended up tearing his ACL, LCL, and had a severely sprained ankle. So, at first, if you just looked at the collision, it looked bad, but it didn't look like there was that much injury involved, if that makes sense. But, it turned out to be a big blow for the Cubs so far.
Yeah, and you got to think about, those are two pretty big guys, one with Schwarber being just a very broad guy, and then Dexter Fowler, I think he's like 6'5" and just kind of built kind of Jason Hayward-like, and you can just imagine two guys going almost full speed after a ball, and those ACL injuries and stuff like that, those are kind of the things you almost can't really see them happening at most times. It's kind of more of an internal thing, so that might be why it didn't look as bad. But I remember watching it, and I was like, didn't really understand what had happened, because there's not really much evidence in the video that could, besides seeing that left leg being kind of, taken out. Other than that, you can't really see anything too severe looking. But, going back to Schwarber, definitely a big key they were hoping to have this season to make this, World Series run that everyone's putting them down to have. So hopefully they can find a way to replace a big power guy in their lineup, and they'll definitely need to soon. Yeah,
I think they're going to go with the platoon, maybe put Javier Baez in the infield for a little bit, and maybe move Zobrist out there. And they've also got Munenori Kawasaki, who they can move around, as well as Matt Caesar. So the Cubs will definitely, they have depth, and I thought that's why it was key to get Dexter Fowler.
Yeah.
Because now you still have Hayward and Fowler out there, and they can cover a lot of ground in the outfield. So you don't exactly have to put Gold Glover there in left, but it'll definitely, be interesting to see how. Oh, excuse me, I completely forgot about Jorge Soler.
Yeah.
He'll probably get more time out there too. So I'm sure Joe Madden always does a good job of playing matchups and getting the most out of platoon. So we'll see how the Cubs will do with that. But speaking of the Cubs, they are one of the teams off to a hot start. They are off to a 9-3 record, and partly because of their offense, which is second in the NL in runs with 71, third in OBP with a 3.56 OBP, and their pitching has also been stellar, Frankie. Second in the NL in ERA, and Jake Arrieta just picking up where he left off. I mean, he's one of the most exciting, if not the most exciting pitcher to watch in baseball right now.
Yeah, I mean, he is the guy just picking off right where he started off from last season. No slowing down, it seems to be, and that staff is just loaded right now. Like you said, Arrieta, Lester, Lackey, and then you also got
Kyle Hendricks.
Yeah, Kyle Hendricks and Jason Hamill all just, tearing it up this season so far. And even, the batting isn't too great average-wise. Hayward's only batting 205, Bryant 229, Rizzo 186. Fowler, you just talked about it. Glad they, ended up signing him with, the Schwarber injury. He's batting 375 right now. But the big thing, these guys are putting runs on the board. And you got so many guys in this lineup that can just change a game with one swing of the bat. And that's pretty much what they've been doing, just driving in runs and let their pitching do the work. And, they can put up, 3 or 4 runs a game. They're pretty much squared to, be down for a victory just the way that their pitching's been.
Yeah, and, even though some of the main guys in their lineup don't have good batting averages right now, once again, they're third in OBP. If you look at all their OBPs, they have on-base percentages of well over 300. So these guys are walking a lot, taking advantage of any opportunities that they're getting, and this is going to be a very fun team to watch as we continue to go through the season. I know we've talked about the Cubs a lot, but all the young talent they have and just the pitching staff now. Yeah. I mean, getting Lackey was huge. So, it'll just be up to how their position players adjust and continue to, be able to move around and continue to adjust young players. So, but nobody better than to have Joe Madden leading the way. And another NL team off to a hot start, the Washington Nationals, and the Nationals are 9-2 so far, leading the NL East, and they've been led by some great pitching. Their pitching is first in the NL in ERA, as Gio Gonzalez, Steven Strasburg, both doing well so far. Scherzer's also put up some decent starts. I know he had a little higher ERA, but that's only in a few games. So, the offense, middle of the pack in many categories, but they've really been led by two guys, Frankie.
Yeah, Bryce Harper not slowing down at all from last season either. Batting about 360, 6 home runs so far, 15 RBIs, just continuing to shock everybody. This guy lives up to the hype that he's had for all these years, and definitely the big catalyst in this team. I'm sure he kind of gets that clubhouse fired up before every game and just kind of is a good drive in that clubhouse. And you also got Daniel Murphy, a guy with a lot of criticism coming off this offseason, for the Nationals, batting .432 right now, 8 RBIs, not so big in the power category right now, but getting on base and, being able to score runs and, a good fill-in them to have at second base. And then, going back to the pitching, I'm glad to see Gio Gonzalez kind of, rebounding after a couple seasons of not really being, you fill in these guys, you get Zimmerman and Scherzer, and he kind of falls back to a guy that could be, back in the day, number one in your rotation for a lot of teams. And really nice to see him, doing well. Yeah,
definitely. I mean, he's one of the, I would say, better left-handers in the game, and he's got great stuff. I think he's just battled inconsistencies, and especially, once again, you said they're bringing in other guys, so, maybe you don't feel as important in the rotation, too. So I definitely think the Nationals are going to give the Mets a big challenge this year, and we'll see how the season for them goes. And off to some NL teams who could have better starts. We start with the Diamondbacks. I know they've had high expectations going into this season after really retooling and getting guys like Greinke, Shelby Miller, Gene Segura. So far, their offense, 7th in the NL in runs, about middle of the pack, 10th in batting average. You have Gene Segura, who's off to a hot start, 333 average, 3 home runs, 6 RBIs. But Paul Goldschmidt so far, only 205 average, 3 home runs, and 9 RBIs. And Frankie, I was surprised that their pitching so far has really let them down. I mean, we saw in the start against Colorado, Zach Greinke didn't do too well, so.
Yeah, after 3 starts, really not showing us Zach Greinke in the Dodgers uniform, and that's another thing I just start thinking about. It'd kind of be nice to see Greinke kind of stick around in one team. He's been all over the place throughout his career, and you just kind of wonder what would happen if just someone locked him down and kind of got him for a long term. And don't want to say it kind of seems like he chases the money in a sense, but I'm sure moving to a different team every year kind of gets a little rough adjusting to a new ballpark and kind of a new team and new routines, new pitching coaches. So hopefully it'll kind of settle down once the year progresses. And then also Shelby Miller, almost in the same boat as Greinke, 12 earned runs in about 12 innings. So that's definitely going to be something they're going to have to fix real quick if they want to have any contention in this NL West.
Yeah, I mean, Shelby Miller is one of the guys that they brought in to be their number 2 guy. So he's going to be a big piece for them, and being in front of Patrick Corbin. So I think Greinke will definitely get it together, but after seeing the Rockies basically tee off on him on opening day, definitely a call for concern. And to some teams who didn't have great starts whatsoever in the National League, the Atlanta Braves starting out losing 9 straight games to begin the season. Currently, they are actually on a 3-game winning streak after winning 3 and sweeping the Miami Marlins down in Miami. So good to see them get back on track. But Frankie, the struggles have been on offense and on the pitching side so far.
It's been a double-edged sword right now. Not putting the ball in play and just kind of, like we said, there's really got to be a collaborative effort along these guys to get on base and play a little bit more small ball. We just can't really, hitting really poor for average at 208, second to last, and 12th in runs. And with the way our pitching staff's been, second to last in ERA, 5.35, and the third most walks with 48. Just you can't have one without the other. You really need both of these sides of the ball game to be working, and they just aren't doing so well at all. Freddie Freeman, we talked about this a lot during the offseason, can't really, try to put a lot of weight on his shoulders, only batting 167 right now, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, and the only, shining right now is Nick Markakis batting 333, 12 RBIs, but, at least, got off of that 9-game losing skid and went on to sweep the Marlins, so this could be a turnaround for us.
Yeah, I know there were some people around, I would say, Georgia College who were saying that the Braves would go 0-162. Obviously, that's not going to be the case. I think the Braves will definitely be better than people expect this year. Obviously, we're not showing it right now, but I think, the pitching staff is really going to be key because, Tehran not doing well right now, Bud Norris, Bud Norris has pitched well in a few of his starts, but still a high ERA. So if we get this pitching kind of locked down, I think the Braves have potential to maybe win 70, 80 games at the most.
Our bullpen's definitely been letting us down a lot, too. A lot of late innings, guys hitting home runs, breaking up ball games, and that's definitely another thing we're going to have to try to improve on. A lot of young guys out there, a lot of new guys, really, just starting off. So it's going to be a lot of guys in and out of the minors, testing some guys out. We've already seen that happen a little bit with a lot of our bullpen guys. And so, hopefully, a lot of, what's his name? Maddox. Is that his last name? I can't remember. We brought him up. I don't remember what his name is, but he's been, doing pretty well for us. I cannot remember what his name is.
I am so confused right now.
Oh, my
It's all right.
gosh.
Hey, we'll
I'm
figure
looking
it
it
out.
up, so
We'll figure it out.
continue.
Also, to another team having a bad start, the San Diego Padres, and they are 11th in batting average currently on offense and 10th in runs, and they're notables right now. Melvin Upton Jr., actually, he hitting... Oh, you were thinking of Malik Smith.
Malik Smith,
There we
yes.
go. I was like...
Yes.
Okay, yeah, Malik Smith. Melvin Upton Jr. actually batting 289, 2 home runs, 3 stolen bases for the Padres, so... He's having a little bit of productivity over there in San Diego, and Will Myers also off to a good start after really being derailed by that wrist injury last year. 288, 2 home runs this far, and they're pitching once again. We talk about a lot of these teams; their pitching's letting them down. That's a big spot there for the Padres too. Andrew Kashner, 3 starts, 9 earned runs in 15 innings, and James Shields, who they expected a lot more out of. So far, 3 starts and 9 earned runs in 20 innings. So, not too bad, but still not where you want it.
Yeah.
So.
And also, Trevor Ross not doing too well either. And this is just a team, back-to-back years kind of been disappointing, especially after last year with all the expectations they had. But, I'm thinking maybe Melvin Upton Jr.'s problem. I want to say BJ so bad, but, gotta say it. Respect his choice to change that. But, maybe being with his brother kind of being overshadowed by him, and he kind of needed to, stray away from that. Maybe that's kind of going to help him come back out of his shell and be a little more productive for this team.
That is definitely a great point. And, I think the Padres are maybe a few years away.
Yeah.
I know they gave away a lot of their farm system, especially to Atlanta, which we're happy. Thank you, San Diego. But, we'll see how they continue to progress, and they've got some talent down there. They just haven't really been executing. So I think this year we can see them unload a Tyson Ross, unload an Andrew Kashner to get some prospects back, but it's definitely going to be a few years before the Padres contend again. And we'll take another break, but when we come back, we will highlight the AL teams and talk about who's off to a hot start and who isn't off to a hot start. And we're back here on A Week in Baseball. Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein with you on WGUR 95.3 The Noise. And out to some AL teams that are off to hot starts. We have the Baltimore Orioles off to an 8-3 record, and they have really been bolstered by their offense. That's first in the AL in average and second in runs with 61 runs. And some notables there, you have Mark Trumbo, who they acquired from Seattle, hitting .386 with 5 home runs. So Trumbo getting back to that old Trumbo form that we knew when he was hitting 30 home runs this season. Also, Adam Jones on the other side, hitting only .208 with 1 home run in the season's first 2 weeks. So, they have been carried by some other guys so far, but good to see Trumbo getting back to form, Frankie.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look forward to. Had a couple rough years going out there to Los Angeles, and maybe a new, coming back over to East Coast, kind of help him out a little bit and be a little bit more productive. Obviously, so far has been killing it right now, and this Orioles team, didn't really give him much at the start of this offseason, but guys like Chris Davis, you got Manny Machado, Orioles acquiring Pedro Alvarez, re-signing Matt Wieters. These guys are all putting it together, and a lot of these guys have been here for a little bit and kind of gotten used to each other, have a little bit more chemistry. So they're definitely, doing very well. First in offensive average in the AL and second in runs. And, pitching too. The pitching's definitely holding their own and giving them a chance to win these ball games, with Ubaldo Jimenez kind of bouncing back a little bit, 1-1 right now with a 3.75 ERA. Then you also got Giovanni Gallardo, not doing so hot right now. ERA around 5.60 over 3 starts. And then you also, their defense, something that we come to know, Orioles tied for third, fewest errors. You got J.J. Hardy over there at shortstop, just a staple, and then Machado and Chris Davis, all guys that play super good defense. And then Adam Jones, fast guy in there in the outfield, can track balls down and definitely give you a chance to win some ball games.
Yeah, I think the Orioles, I know I picked them personally to finish last in the AL East, so we'll see how they continue to go. But I think a big thing for them is the pitching going forward. It hasn't been too good already, even though they have won these games. So, if the offense struggles at all, I think that's when the Orioles are really going to be hit by struggles. And some other teams that have gotten off to hot starts in the American League, the White Sox have gone 8-4 so far, and they've been led by fantastic pitching, and their offense has been about league average. So their offense 11th in runs with 39 and 13th in OBP, 278. And Adam Eaton so far 356 average, so doing well out of the leadoff spot there. But on the other side, Todd Frazier hitting only 163 with 2 home runs. And their pitching has picked up right where it's left off, especially with Chris Sale. They're first in the AL in ERA with a 2.49 ERA, and the third fewest walks allowed with only 28. So, Sale 3-0, 2.35 ERA, and he's definitely going to be a big piece, like he always is for the White Sox.
Chris Sale, always that super dominant pitcher. Just such a hard guy to hit off from his arm angle, the way that he comes at you, and the stuff that he has is just disgusting and so hard to hit. And, Matt Latos really kind of trying to resurrect his career after a couple bad years in Miami. 0.75 ERA in 2 starts. I believe that's one of my notables I have down for it's one of the games coming up. But we talked about this AL Central being a tough place this year. You got the Tigers, White Sox, Royals all punching it out, trying to get atop of that division. But definitely good to see the White Sox kind of making a little bit comeback.
And another team in the AL Central, the Kansas City Royals, off to an 8-4 start as well, and they have been led by good offense and good pitching. Their offense is 4th in average with 252, 9th in runs, 43, so haven't scored that many runs, but have really made the most of the runs that they have scored. Eric Hosmer off to a good start with a 313 average. Lorenzo Cain, on the other hand, 227 in these first 2 weeks, 2 home runs and 7 RBIs. And the pitching, 2nd in ERA at 2.89 and 4th in strikeouts with 108. And it's been fun to see the guys who are on the mound for the Royals just do their thing.
Yeah, Volquez with a 2.04 ERA. Chris Medlin, 2.38 ERA. Kind of glad to see him, coming back to the league. And Ian Kennedy, 0.66 ERA. Used to be one of the dominant pitchers back in the day over in San Diego. and went over to, I believe, the Diamondbacks. Didn't do so hot, or it might have been the other way around.
Yeah, I think it was the other way around.
Sorry. Well, was in Arizona. Did really well down there. Went over to the Padres, not so much, but these past 2 starts, 1 unearned run, I think like 13 innings or so. So, and then you got this team that's pretty much the same team as the World Series team, losing, Ben Zobrist, pretty much the only real loss they had this offseason. So it's the same guys playing the same kind of ball they do. Great defense, get on base, and, pretty quality pitching.
And, yeah, they're going to definitely be a team that will obviously contend for the AL Central title, and definitely, I think, a World Series title in addition to that. And some teams that could be off to some better starts, the Houston Astros, 5-8, not too bad of a record, but 7th in average, 2nd in homers, and Tyler White, rookie for them, really off to a good start, 357 average, 4 home runs, 11 RBIs, and the pitching is really been hitting them hard. Last in ERA with 4.86 in the AL, second most homers allowed with 20, and Colin McHugh with a 6.39 ERA through his first few starts. And Dallas Keuchel, though, is picking up where he left off with an ERA of 2.18. And Carlos Gomez also really hasn't gotten off to a great start. But this is an Astros team that, they have a good, solid team all around. The pitching's good. The bullpen's good. The offense is good as long as they make enough contact. What are your thoughts, Frankie?
Yeah, this is a team that a lot of people picked, possibly being, World Series contenders this year. And, 5-8 is not horrible. It's the start of the season, trying to, kind of sort some things out. But, again, very almost the same build as their team last year. So I'm sure once they kind of get the ball rolling on this one, will be a little bit better. And, that pitching's the thing that they're going to have to nail down and really kind of get those bugs out of there. Colin McHugh, one of their, top guys out there, not starting off too hot, but, their farm system is definitely going to be a big key to them being able to have a lot of success this season. And, I'm sure they'll kind of start to get some of these rookies, Tyler White, you mentioned, off to a great start. Get these rookies kind of settled down and see what they can do out there.
Definitely, Frankie. And a team off to a bad start, the Minnesota Twins, basically following the script of the Atlanta Braves, losing their first 9 to begin the season, and then winning 3. So they're at a record of 3-9 currently. The offense is really what's gotten them. 11th in average with 224. Last in runs scored, only 28 runs scored in 12 games. That's just over 2 runs a game. Definitely not helping their pitching staff, but their pitching staff has been doing well so far. 5th in ERA at 3.44, and Kyle Gibson, Irvin Santana, Ricky Nolasco, all with ERAs in the lower 3s. So, I think the Twins, as long as their offense comes around, and, they've got good run producers in that lineup. I know Joe Mauer this season hitting 372, but, Brian Dozier not really off to too good of a start, about 167. So, they have Miguel Sano, Byung-Ho Park, who they brought in. I know some scouts are a little weary about how his power will translate, but this is a team that can win 80 games, and it's just about putting enough runs on the board.
Yeah, this is a talented club with a lot of, big guys on here, and they just really got to, like most of these teams that aren't doing too well, just kind of buckle down and, pick out what's wrong with their hitting. Maybe have to, spend a little bit more time in the cage after practice, or, take a little more cuts, get used to it. But, it's kind of, besides that, I don't really see what much of the problem is. Just getting on base and having some of these younger guys, Byron Buxton and, Miguel Sano, maybe need to pick it up a little bit. With a lot of these veteran guys, like you said, Dozier not doing too hot either. But, the pitching seems to be doing well. If they could score, 2 more runs a game, they'd probably be a little better off with their record.
Definitely. And now on to a new segment here on A Week in Baseball. It's called Frankie's 5. And Frankie will pick 5 things every week, whether it's pitching matchups, hitters to watch, or games to watch. So today, Frankie, what do we have?
All right, we got the 5 pitching matchups to look forward to within these next 3 days. Can't look too far into the week without probables being out yet. So first on my list is actually a game tonight in Miami. Tanner Roark versus Jose Fernandez, and Roark just coming off of a 7-inning shutout against the Braves, filling in for Steven Strasburg, who I believe had the flu and couldn't start that game, and definitely showed the Braves what he was able to do. And then you also got Jose Fernandez, snapped that home win streak that he had. Not too great of a start, and he's really trying to bounce back. And a couple slow starts this season, so that's the first game to look out for. The second game, we got the Pirates and Padres. Garrett Cole and James Shields. We mentioned James Shields earlier. 0-2 record. I think he's 4+ in his ERA. And Cole been very dominant against the Padres throughout his career. 2-1 record with a 2.04 ERA. And both of these guys, also Cole, not really having the hottest start. I believe he's ERA is around like 4.3 right now, so definitely trying to get settled down. And then this is a big matchup, Cubs-Cardinals. This is on Tuesday. Jason Hamill and Jaime Garcia. Jason Hamill is allowed just 1 run over 12 innings, and Jaime Garcia coming off of a 1-hitter against the Brewers in his last start. And then we also have Garrett Richards and Chris Sale on Wednesday in Chicago. And, 2 aces in their ball clubs facing off. We just talked about Sale earlier, coming off of a 2-hit shutout against the Rays. 3-0, 23 strikeouts, and looking like the Chris Sale that we've seen these past couple of seasons. And then Garrett Richards, on the other hand, not doing too well. Started off 0-2, pitched pretty well with a quality start last game. 2 earned runs over 6 innings. The bullpen kind of gave that one away for him. Could have got him a win there, but this 2 premier guys matching up on Wednesday. And then final game that I picked out. This is a really good one on Wednesday as well. Tigers-Royals, Jordan Zimmerman and Ian Kennedy. Zimmerman, 0 earned runs in 13 innings, and we talked about Ian Kennedy earlier, only giving up 1 run in 13 2/3 innings. And 2 guys coming up to new teams and having a lot of success, and this is going to be a great AL Central matchup they got.
And definitely Frankie, and that was Frankie's 5 of this week. And catch us next week to hear what Frankie has for them. And also some other notables. You have Zach Greinke and Madison Bumgarner. That's just one of those classic Giants-Dodgers matchups. And we've already seen, Yeah. Whoa, it got me there. Diamondbacks, Giants. Oh, man.
Sounds wrong to say it.
It really does. You also have Doug Fisher for the Astros and Cole Hamels, and Taijuan Walker and Danny Salazar, Mariners and Indians, also this week. So a lot of good pitching matchups in baseball, and definitely don't want to miss those. And we once again thank you for tuning in to A Week in Baseball. Remember to follow us on all of our social media pages, and they can be found on our my blog, www.aweekinbaseball.blogspot.com. And so for Stephen Walters and Frankie Hohenstein, have a great week.